I am joined by the determined filmmaking force who've evolved. Thank you. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Yeah.
I'm here with Jason Brown, director, actor, special effects artist, editor, filmmaker. I'm here with The Bat, the movie reviewer, interviewer, watch-along holder, unboxing, ranking, movie hauls, the one and only horror YouTuber, Al Lacard.
Outrageous spectacle I have ever witnessed.
Crash. The David Cronenberg film based on the G.
Taking Mercy for a quick paddle.
I watched The Last Voyage of the Demeter last night from the director of the excellent Troll Hunter. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to talk to you about animation. It's something that so many of us love and are really into, but we don't know a lot about what goes on under the bonnet, how it gets made. We just kind of enjoy it. So I'm really interested in your role. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, it's not a problem. I'm really happy to be here and talk your ear off about animation.
And it's time for the Bugwall 316 review of Pillow Party Massacre, not Pillow Pants Massacre, Kevin Smith fans. So we're going to be talking about Ghostbusters The Seed. It's an unused first script that was going to be Ghostbusters 2, much in the way Ghost Smashers was the unused first script you can find online that led to Ghostbusters.
The best part of doing this film was how many interesting showed up. An average day for me was one of my favorite days. I got to have lunch with Dick Van Dyke and Al Pacino at the same time.
We can talk like this, and you're all the way over in the UK.
I would say you're also responsible for me every time I saw a mirror as a child trying a different voice.
Opera from '87.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
I love opera.
I adore opera. I love opera so much. The kills are fantastic.
This has done multiple short movies, over 61 titles in his career.
Bugwall 316 proudly presents Wings Week.
So, if you want horror, I've got horror for you. Chris McCauley, Dacre Stoker, thank you so much, gentlemen. Right, guys. Okay, guys. So we're here. Let's go. Yeah. Let's go. Let's do this.
Ready for this, man? Yeah.
Yeah. Episode 4, Surviving. There's a sort of an amount of ambiguity that you want to leave with the film so that people make up their own minds and interpret it their own way.
That's very much true, yes.
For a collectible publication, a monthly column.
Incredibly sexy night owl. Don, I have to introduce him first, Larry, for obvious reasons. And I am so lucky to be joined by Gareth for a second time, a glutton for Wings punishment. The Wings Hauser fan club here as well, straight away. Larry's here, who was here for the first part of Wings Week.
What I want, baby, let's make that deal. Bang, bang, shoot 'em up.
We're here to watch Dead Man's Shoes. I'm joined by Mike. How you doing, Mike?
Blair Witch came out. The way they marketed that film, I thought was genius.
The resurrection of a beloved name in horror, and we can do that today. So, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to be working with you very soon. Goodbye.
And here he is. Mr. Brewster's turned up now.
Ah, gentlemen, hello.
Now, I don't want to give too much away, you see, so I had to be very careful there because I don't want to give any spoilers for people who haven't seen it.
Retro Toys Minute.
Pugwall 316.
Pugwalls 316.
Pugwall 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 316. Pugwall 316.
Pugwall 316.
Supporting the horror community. So check out Pugwall 316.
Hello. Hello, people of Earth. So, an impromptu stream talking about the unmade Jaws 3 People Nil. I just think it's a fascinating story that maybe not a lot of people know about. The actual artwork was made. There was 5 or 6 script revisions made. So many things that were almost about this film. Joe Dante was attached as a director after the success of Piranha. So this is a really interesting National Lampoon based Jaws 3. Big thank you to MyFlock sharing out this stream. It's a bit of an impromptu one. I've not told anybody I was going to do this, and it's just fun, and I find things like this really interesting. These kind of almosts. If you're really interested in this kind of thing, I did a recent script read of Halloween 666, the unmade sequel, and yeah, that one was terrible. Actually, Jaws 3 People Nil has a lot of things going for it. We'll read part of the script, or we'll have a look at part of the script. We'll a synopsis of how it got made and the story of how it got made, the story of how it didn't get made, how it almost got made, and we'll have a look through all different things, a synopsis, an overview of it as well. So yeah, this one is thank you for those of you who might be watching this now live, but also the people who are going to join and watch later on and catch up on this story. I'm freezing, by the way. It's so cold. So apologies if I sound a bit shaky because it's gone so cold here today. But yeah, this is a bit of a secret, a little bit of a secret discussion about Jaws 3 People Nil. So I'm going to get started by giving you an overview of this as well. Hey, thanks, Big Box. Thanks for that, for joining as well. I appreciate that. So we're going to have a talk. I'm going to start you off by going over the background from Jaws 3 People Nil. So Jaws 3 People Nil was the original script, which was meant as the third Jaws film. Now, you may remember Jaws 3D that got made. It has more detractors than people saying how great it was. Jaws 2, on the other hand, I think has stood the test of time and is actually a pretty good film. You have to remember, this is quite a chaotic series of films. Even the original, Steven Spielberg was not the Steven Spielberg that we know now. He was literally getting sort of bullied on set by experienced crew members that kind of saw him as this geeky kid and didn't have a lot of people going for him. In fact, he had to escape at the end of the making of it because they were planning on throwing him into the sea. And they just thought it was going to be a disaster. It took a long time to make. It wasn't. It's an incredible film, and I recently watched it. Probably within the last year, they did a showing of it in a local big cinema, and oh my word, it's amazing on the big screen. It's so good. So yeah, it's chaotic in terms of the sequels and all different things related to it. I wonder if we'll get a modern one. To be honest, there's so many rip-offs and sharksploitation films. You can see all kinds of weird and wonderful takes on it, from the Meg through to the Asylum films, all different kinds of things like that. So thank you for those of you watching. Let's get down to it. Let's talk. It's a relatively short stream, but we're going to go through, instead of the horror thriller take on the first two Jaws films, this was going to be a spoof. Okay, this is fresh off the success of National Lampoon's Animal House. So the original producers of the first Jaws film were going to be on as executive producers, and it was going to go to Matty Simmons, the producer and sort of brains behind National Lampoon's Animal House. The script was written by, and this is pretty amazing, John Hughes of Breakfast Club, Home Alone, all those films of most people's childhoods. Just incredible writer. And Joe Dante was, of Gremlins fame, Piranha fame, was pursued as director for this. Now, it was shut down due to conflicts with Universal Studios. And the premise of the film was about a film crew making a Jaws sequel. So it's quite meta. And they're making a Jaws sequel, but they're actually being hunted by a great white at the same time. So I think that's pretty cool. Pretty cool idea. But straight away, the movie opens with Peter Benchley. They were going to try and get Peter Benchley, the writer of the Jaws book, the novel, if you've read that, being eaten by a shark in his swimming pool. There was also a part written for Steven Spielberg, to kind of make fun of himself. And there was going to be a recreation of the Bonfire Beach party and first shark attack, except this time, this is Hollywood execs, and they would have been partying and just got absolutely gutted. And then when there's also a funny sequence similar to the, if you remember the Austin Powers in the tent sequence, taking things out of certain orifices, there's going to be a similar sort of silly scene like that here. However, it was going to be when the shark was gutted and cut open, there was going to be a violin, some weed, like people's clothes, and there would have been a character in it, which is quite interesting, called Pierre Cockatoo. Now, kind of think along the lines of National Lampoon spoofs and things like that. A mix of Jacques Cousteau and Quint from the first film. Now, if you think of Robert Shaw, Quint, not like Jacques Cousteau, so that would have been interesting. I used to live near a pub called the Robert Shaw because he was from that area of Britain, and Robert Shaw, kind of known as that sort of tough, gruff Quint character with Jacques Cousteau and him mixed up together, would have been really interesting. So that's the premise. So many big names attached and involved already, from Benchley and Spielberg maybe being in the film, from National Lampoon people coming off the back of one of the biggest hits of all time. I have to excuse my dog. She gets very excited when I talk about sharks. And John Hughes and Tom Carroll writing the script. So obviously this was shut down. As you can see to my left, there is a poster that was made. That would have been the real genuine poster. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview. This is not going to be a super long stream, but I do think it's interesting to get into. I like getting these stories out there, and there is a podcast, I think it's called Greatest Films Never Made, that goes through this in minute detail, page by page. But I'm just going to give you the crazy highlights. So as we know, recently, I don't know if you saw this, there's a documentary on Shudder called Sharksploitation. I'm not sure if it's in the UK. I couldn't find it when I was looking for it, but it sounds really, really cool. In fact, I think one of the producers or one of the writers of that discussed this in great detail on that podcast I was just talking about. So if you have to remember, in 1978, Joe Dante had made Piranha, and obviously we just talked about the success of the original Jaws, but also the success of National Lampoon. So these things kind of all make sense. Now, if you remember, the second Jaws movie came out around the time of Piranha. Obviously, this is Roger Corman making Piranha, so he's doing that deliberately to cash in. So if you've kind of not seen Piranha, it's very well made for the time and kind of shows off the talent of Joe Dante, and obviously most people will know him for things like Gremlins and The Burbs. So the idea was that the people who were making Jaws 2 wanted to shut down Piranha, and Spielberg actually stepped in and said, "No, it's a spoof. This isn't a ripoff." And actually, and Joe Dante will agree with this, it is more of a ripoff than it is a spoof. But because of that, and because of that connection, he was offered Jaws 3 people nil. Now, this was the company from the Matty Simmons, who owned the company or worked for the company of National Lampoon's magazine. He was a producer of National Lampoon's Animal House. And his next door neighbors were the producers of Jaws. And he had kind of had a conversation with them. Richard Zanuck, who was one of the producers, you'll see his name on Jaws. He'd said, "Oh, I really want to make a film with you guys." And out of the blue, he started saying, "Jaws 3 people, nothing," like it was a football score or a sports game. And Peter Benchley, he just basically gave this silly overview. Peter Benchley walking out of his house, jumping into a pool, and then disappearing. And the next thing we see, a fin in the pool. Somehow a shark has got into the swimming pool. And instead of just laughing at it, his neighbor, Richard Zanuck, was like, I love it. I'll call you tomorrow. We're making this movie." So imagine having a silly idea, telling your neighbor about it, and the neighbor goes, "Yeah, we're doing it. We're making this." So I think that's fantastic. So straight away, Richard Simmons recruited future Breakfast Club filmmaker John Hughes, a screenwriter named Todd Carroll, and it was going to be kind of a raunchy comedy as well, because that was kind of the time. So think of Animal House. They wanted Bo Derek in it from 10, and basically wanted her to be nude quite a lot in it. That'd be interesting. They wanted it to be R-rated, essentially, whereas Zanuck and Brown wanted it to be a PG, family-friendly, fun take on it. Now, it was ultimately cancelled, as we say. But Universal decided to make a traditional sequel in 1983 with the Dennis Quaid starring Jaws 3D, which kind of washed, no pun intended, kind of washed over me a little bit, that film. I think the concept of 3D was pushed more than the concept of the story being good. Obviously, Dennis Quaid was good in it. He was good in most things. They just couldn't agree on the tone of what they wanted to make. So you had these two massive entities of National Lampoons, and then you had Zanuck and Brown, who were super popular. They basically had to choose between Spielberg's approach to Jaws and continuing that, or a completely new one. And they went for the Spielberg one. I think the story, the sort of underlying story is as well, they thought he might have been upset with the spoof element of it, which is interesting because they were thinking, oh, he'd be in it. Thanks for those people who are like my flock who are liking and sharing out the video. I appreciate that. Really appreciate it. So Sharksploitation, the documentary that came out on Shudder, you may have seen it. It's really, really good. Steven Scarlatta, that's the name of the guy who does the podcast, and he goes into this in minute detail as well. It's fascinating. He interviews the son of Richard Zanuck because, and this is important, because Richard Zanuck had the script in his house, and when he passed away and his son was going through his things, his son found it, and that's where he shared it on this podcast. Now, I've got a copy of it on my phone at the moment as well. Oh my word, the amount of revisions. There must be 30 different revisions on it, this version. So we're talking quite down the line. For example, the Halloween 666 script that I read with Al Lacard last week, that one had 1 or 2 revisions before it was just blown out of the water, thrown away. After they showed it to Tarantino, I was like, "Do you want to make this movie?" And he's like, "No." So the documentary Sharksploitation does go into this in a little bit more detail, but I want to kind of just talk you through some of the key points of the original story. As it says on the front of it here, Jaws 3 people nil, National Lampoon's Jaws 3 people nil. It says original story by Matty Simmons, second revised final draft by John Hughes and Todd Carroll. So we're talking Matty Simmons talking to his neighbors and coming up with this idea. He gets the original story concept, not Peter Benchley, because I guess it's so far away from that. And I'm just going to take you through some of it. So I'm looking here at the different revised pages, and just to give you an idea of how much was changed. So it was distributed finally and shown to people in August 29th, 1979. Wow, just before I was born. And this is how many of the pages were revised and changed up to that point. So pages 10 and 15, 35, 39, 40, 41, 41A, 46, 48, 57, 58, 60, 65, 66, 74, 81, 91, 92, 93, 98, 102, 102A, 103, 106, 110, and 111 all had changes to them. Seemed like they had a good run around the 70s there where they didn't change very much. We're talking a page a minute, 100 and maybe 120. I'm not sure exactly the total count, but yeah. The final draft was done on the 24th of August, and 4 days later it was distributed. That's my maths from reading it there. So we're going to have a look through some of the original pages. It's signed off and distributed, like I say, on the 31st of August, 79. I'm just going to keep skipping through here because at the moment, all I'm looking at is the different people it was sent out to. Right, now, the opening credits of Jaws 3. So you were wondering, because it's the most famous opening credits to a film in history, isn't it? So what the original is. So what would this be like? Well, opening credits to Jaws 3, people nil. So over black. We're going to match this to Jaws 1. We hear strange underwater rumblings, menacing music as in Jaws 1. Shot occurs in dark, mysterious water, rippling with dim traces of light. The floor is indistinguishable. There is no life. Although not apparent to the audience, we are in a swimming pool. Dissolved to Palm Springs Desert. The cool blue quiet of the desert night, pan across the landscape to a rambling house with the lights burning. Interior, Peter Benchley's study. So we get Benchley straight away. This feels a little bit like Airplane, maybe. You know, in Airplane, they do a Jaws spoof, don't they? Really, they were on it with the spoofs for modern films at the time. They do a spoof of the plane going through the air, to the Jaws music. So Benchley is seated at his desk, hunched over his typewriter. He is wearing a robe over a pair of swimming shorts. He is typing the title page of a script reading Jaws 3 by Peter. He types his last name, Benchley. He then types in second draft, final revision. He pulls the paper out of the machine, puts in a fresh sheet, and considers the blank page for a moment. He rubs his eyes and yawns. It's late. He's tired. He leaves the study. At another angle, he walks up the sliding glass doors adjoining the pool area. He looks up to the sky and takes a deep breath of fresh night. Okay, so this is almost like a Scream, you know, where there's going to be like a completely unrelated thing happen at the beginning of the film. He unties his robe, takes it off, he drapes it over a chair. He does a deep knee bend and limbers up with his arms, flips a switch in the Arcadia door, which turns on an underwater light in his pool, visible in the background. We hear the strain of the theme music. Benchley kicks off his slippers. He steps onto the diving board. He does a few bounces, sets off his feet. He does a back jackknife, and his back is to the pool. He puts his arms to his sides and takes a breath. Looking up, we see Benchley at the end of the board. We see the board bend as he pushes off and goes into the air. I'm going to skip forward a little bit here. A full shot of Benchley as he reaches the apex of the dive and turns towards the water. With a camera on Benchley, we turn and descend. Very suddenly and violently, the surface is broken by a massive shark's jaws, thrusting up out of the water and directly into the camera. Now, exterior, burial at sea. So literally, Benchley has been eaten in his own swimming pool in the first 2 pages, first 2 minutes of the film. So, what do you think that would work? Do you think fans would get a kick out of that? Do they even? I don't know. It was a very popular book, so people knew who he was. So next it cuts to a burial at sea. So there's a craft on the sea, and there's a character called George Jessel, with the lapping of waves on the hull. This was the finest man God ever made. He was kind, he was humble. He's kind of, it says he's droning away. The kindest man known to history. Yeah, it is great, this, isn't it? It is a great poster. I do like it, especially with the cigar on it. I don't know. I don't know. Do you think this would work? Does it work for you? I mean, comparing it to Jaws 3 rather than Jaws 1, then yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing this. I don't know. It would have been interesting. Everything that National Lampoon's touched at the time was successful. It got worse and worse. But yeah. And okay, this is where it gets a bit strange. So as we've got this burial at sea, a large coffin slides off, a cloud of gulls descend on the coffin, and it's supposed to sink, and it doesn't. It floats. And then all of a sudden, the coffin upends, and there's gurgling sounds, and it sounds like a man appears on the deck. Now, this is really hard to follow. He's kind of shooting. There's a submachine gun firing on deck. It rips into the coffin. It sinks. Oh, I see. It won't sink the coffin, so they shoot it to get it to sink. Now, then we get meta. It cuts to Jaws 3 shooting, so they're making a Jaws 3 film. Now, this is where I think it could be quite interesting. This is what, remember, this isn't like, Scream 3 going to Hollywood or what have you. This is quite forward thinking and interesting for 1979. There's cranes, lights, cameras. You see everything. You see actors. They've actually named a couple of the actors who are here. I don't know their names. Darlene DeBerk and Butch Palaso. I don't know if they were in the first ones or not. I don't know. Most personnel are gathered by the surf, watching several people and grips hauling a half-submerged dinghy ashore. Basically, they see a dinghy that's been ripped to pieces, and suddenly a grip pops up from under the waist-deep surf holding a soaked camera, and he goes, "Got it." So basically, the camera has floated off to sea, and one of the grips has had to go and get it. So already it's a bit of a doomed shoot. So then we've got the limousines of the producers and executives looking really unhappy that this film is going so badly. Remember, this is the shooting of Jaws 3 that they're spoofing in this thing. Well, not spoofing, because the actual Jaws 3 doesn't happen for a few more years, but just the idea of a Jaws 3. Then the camera crew, we follow the camera crew doing a lot of ins and outs here. And then the director is really upset, saying everything's going wrong. He's looking at his wet camera. He stood there holding a bullhorn. He's just called director at this point. And then it says Canterbury. I'm not sure who Canterbury is. Maybe Canterbury's one of the execs. And the whole thing, basically the director's falling apart. He's really upset. And then he holds up this. Oh, it's his assistant director's Canterbury. No, he's not. No, he's just an assistant director called assistant director. And he holds up a clapperboard and he says, "Take 137. And then he goes, "Stephen, we're going to have to do the whole shot again." Okay, so the director's called Stephen. Interesting. And the director's like, "Forget it." "Hey, Alucard, how you doing?" Jaws, probably. I even have a seafood allergy, so I've got no chance. Thank you, Larry, for that. You have a lot of what's the word? Faith. So, and I was just talking about how Al and I went through Halloween 666. This, on the other hand, I think is actually probably more of a well-realized film. So, director's upset. He just goes, "Our shooting platforms are getting beat to shit. The camera over there is completely destroyed. The actors are afraid to go in the water." And then said, speaking of the actors, do you see that? And then we see, Butch Palaso, the character Butch Palaso is basically, I think, going to be like a John Belushi kind of character. So, maybe not. I don't know. Let's see. A fatuous, self-absorbed 240-pound blimp with a 30-second attention span, a pompadour and pencil moustache, Butch is wearing a gold dressing robe, baggy white swimming trunks with Butch lettering on the inside crest on one leg. He continually mopping his brow with a small towel. He exits from his dressing room trailer, looks around, and mincing steps to the chair. About 20 yards from the trailer, the chair sinks into the sand as he sits on it. Okay, so we're meeting these characters. I think, in the house, guys, check out that wonderful established show now. I've got Don and Larry to back me up. I'm sure Al will back me up as well, and maybe my flock if I got into a fight with a shark. I'm sure you would. And it is a great poster, isn't it? It is a really great poster. Oh, even my dog is going crazy at the moment. Because there's a lot of noise going on outside. So the director then talks about Butch Palaso, the leading man. So what happened to him? He used to be all muscle. So we kind of break through that. Just give me 1 second. Marcy, come here. It would be great if I brought her into shot and she's got like a little shark's fin on her back. That would be so funny. Marcy, come on. Come here. See that? The control I have over this dog, it's amazing. Hey, Patrick, it's great to see you. No cheaters in this film. I'm not aware of anyway. Maybe we'll find out. I don't know. Oh, here you are, doggy. Right, you said I'm going to keep you here so you can stop barking at people. Now you're with me. Okay. You can probably just see her tail. There she is. Just her tail wagging around. Right. Now, let's keep going on this. I'm not going to read the whole script. I learned that we went through that mistake when me and Al did the whole of Halloween 666. I think we both went slightly mad by the end of it. So 2 weeks ago, the main actor weighed 180 pounds. I'll tell you what happened. Some idiot from the studio brought his mother over here from Italy. Oh, okay. So we've got the stereotype of like the sort of Italian hunky actor, and then he eats the pasta. Let's see what's going on next. And she's on set feeding him. So this is the kind of silliness that we've got here. Listen to this line. Listen, I didn't get to be the head of Mecca Studios by not making pictures. We'll find a way, believe me, and you'll have a film better than Jaws 1. Slaps director on the back and says with a phony chuckle, my God, it's better than Jaws 2 already. So the backlash against Jaws 2 is already hitting. Wow. That would be funny, yeah. It's Hollyweird. This is Hollyweird in here, but a David Heaven shark movie, yeah. I think Al should make a shark movie with I don't know, man. Yes. So let's keep going. So it goes, it's already better than Jaws 2. I think that's fascinating that within what we're on page 6 here, and already they're like writing off like the common sort of prevailing thought is that Jaws 2 was a failure. And I like Jaws 2. I do like Jaws 2. Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Patrick. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not on my own there. 3, I find it hard to make an argument for. So let's see. He goes, I've given enough of myself to these lousy fish movies. The director says. Isn't that funny? Because obviously, if this is a spoof on Spielberg, he never made another one, did he? It's not. I've not seen every single. I've not seen every single Spielberg movie, but I don't think he's done any more Jaws films. Let's see now. There's a couple more actors that we meet here. Marilyn Sellers. Oh no, she works at the studio. She wants a new director and a new writer. So Canterbury's the studio head, and already he's like, "You guys get out of here." Then we see, oh, this is where we get the sort of the adult side of it. So standing with her back to a camera is a wardrobe trailer. Standing with her back to the camera by a wardrobe trailer. She's not a wardrobe trailer. She is being ministered by a makeup girl, a script girl, and a couple of other assistants. She is obviously a sizable star. She turns her head and shoulders around to examine the bottom of her bikini for a tan line, looks up, sees Canterbury, and smiles. This is Darlene DePerk. Oh, DePerky, like Perky. Okay, I get it. This is the late 70s, early 80s. DePerky. And then he looks at her, and the chief of the movie studio in this film says, "Have her at my place tonight." Oh, my word. Oh, my word. I'm not saying anything, Miramax. Okay. Now, this is where we go to. It's mainly we're mainly following this really wealthy movie mogul. And I'm not going to take you through the whole thing, but I am going to take you to the part where they all get destroyed at this party by a shark. Now, this is, I guess, the big joke of the film. The big conceit of the joke for the joke is that it makes its way into people's private swimming pools, this shark. It's probably as believable as the last Jaws film following the family around, following Ellen Brody and, kind of having a vendetta. In a way, that does that without it being a joke. At least in this one, that's hilarious. So who's there? Well, they're very old, very wealthy movie execs, 7 of them, having a cookout. Oh, it's on the beach. So that makes sense. It's his private beach. So the shark can get there. It's not just like the first one where it pops up in a swimming pool. They're all wearing terry cloth monogrammed robes and smoking jackets, smoking cigars. The studio talk is muffled. And there are lots of young women, I'd imagine. And it's kind of like a joke of the Jaws 1 opening, is what it says. So if you think it's those kids all having a party on the beach, well, it's old men, but the women are still the same age. Okay, I think that would play quite funny, I guess. Then a group of musicians arrive, all wearing tuxedos and playing violins. And one shot of the girls nuzzling a mogul's ear while laughing at a story he is telling. He's holding a tall Polynesian-style drink. They just keep saying decrepit moguls, and they're just drinking. She's feeding him cherries like grapes. Then Darlene DePerk turns up and he pinches her. You can guess where. She lets out a playful screech, then falls to her knees beside him, all smiling and laughing. Oh, wow. Okay. And then he's talking through Jaws 3 with Darlene. I'm trying to get to the carnage here. It's just feel a bit wild, this. Yeah, swim, Eddie, swim faster. Iron Eagle Shark. This is it. These are all great ideas. Ghost Shark, yeah. Oh, okay. Ghost Shark has that. I wonder if anyone has stolen this. Yeah, it needs to be in space, I think, for it to be like a full-on Jason X style version. So what's going on now? Let's keep going until we get some. Oh, it's lots and this whole scene is basically about these moguls getting their rocks off, and Darlene goes into the sea. She's naked, and she shouts for Mr. Canterbury, but it's not Mr. Canterbury. Okay. And then she looks over and it dissolves to the beach at dawn. So a lot happens. Then we see that all that is left of Canterbury. So the mogul gets eaten. He's tangled in seaweed, a monogrammed Hawaiian bathing suit, and a battered digital watch. A sand crab crawls across them to a pair of false teeth. A man's feet, dressed in street shoes, enter the frame. His hand reaches up. It is Drona in a business suit. I don't know who Drona is. He examines the teeth, looks at other remains, and smiles approvingly. Okay. Then we move to Mecha Studios. And below Mecha Studios, it says, where movies are a religion. It'd be funny if the shark had the false teeth, like massive false teeth. And then we've got tourists. So we're basically on a studio here going around. It really jumps around, but I guess if it's trying to do almost like a sketch kind of thing, with lots of little set pieces. So the moguls are all eaten. The film's falling apart. And now we're at the studio. So the film is temporarily... Oh, no. Okay, no. I was going to say I thought it'd be temporarily cancelled because most of the people involved have been eaten. No, that's not the case. They're going to put somebody else in charge. And then it says, the least we can do is give Canterbury a goddamn moment of silence. And then it goes, by all means, let us honour Mr. Canterbury with a minute of silence. And then they gave Irving Bernard of Sterling Pictures 5 minutes of silence when he died. And then the next person goes, Sheldon Hirschberger of Swell Pictures got 10 minutes. I think we're going a little stingy with our devotion. You're absolutely right, Frank. We have lots of other meetings today, but what if we give him 5 minutes silence today and a 5 minutes silence tomorrow? That sounds fair, they say solemnly. Okay, so they're basically timing out a few minutes here and a few minutes there, moments of silence for their main exec. Okay, so you get where that's going. I don't know what you think about it. Let me know what you think about how it would go. Making of a film, the executives being eaten, a kind of Hollywood spoof. Reminds me a bit of The Player, or if you ever remember a TV show called Action with Jay Moyer, it reminds me a bit of that. He was called, what was he called? He was called Peter Dragon, the character that he played. Or even like a Larry Sanders show, kind of behind the scenes. I don't know, man. I think I'd like to see this. I think it could only be better than the Jaws 3 that we got. So thank you so much for all of you who joined. I didn't expect many people to join live, but loads of people have joined live, and I really appreciate that. But if you're watching this back, let me know what you think about the idea for Jaws 3 People Nil. We've got the artwork, we've got the director, we've got the ideas, we've maybe even got Peter Benchley being eaten within the first couple of minutes, beating Drew Barrymore to the punch for the beginning of Scream for years ago. Having said that, it's not like an attractive, he's like a bookish guy, you know, being it. But anyway, you get my point. So they're going to get new directors, new writers, and we're only on page 15 here. A lot has happened. It would have been fun, I think. So, guys, if you want me to do more things like this, and you want just send me a message or write a comment or something. I'll dig out some other things. I've got quite a few in the chamber, so to speak, about films like this. But I really only want to do ones that were almost made, because I think that's more exciting, because we're almost in an alternative universe, aren't we? And it was really fun going through it. So I'm not going to read the whole script. You can say, thankfully, because I don't want to ruin it. But you can find it very easily online now. It was only the last couple of years, like I said earlier on, where I think Richard Zanuck's son, who does work in the movie industry, was going through all these things and found it, because it wasn't like it was saved on disc or anything, because it just didn't happen. It one document would have had to have been saved on like the size of a house. Other things that they talk in here as well about, there's lots of self-referential things, and I do think that it's quite well written. I've read the whole thing. It's quite well written. It's just maybe the wrong film at the wrong, or the right film at the wrong time. And then it's just like the little quips and stuff that I like in it, because It's things like they're getting a new best boy, and then his mother just pops up and goes, "He's the best boy a mother could have." So it's all like behind the scenes movie stuff, because like people often look at that and go, "What's a best boy?" So it kind of comments on movie making as well. And one of the funny things about this film that I must mention is that they're sponsored by Spudlint potatoes. So Spudlint potatoes comes up all the way through it, like a kind of fictional potato company. And they have to kind of get that into the film. Don't know if that changes your mind on wanting to see this. And there probably is some pretty cool kills in there, if I'm honest. It's been a while since I read it all the way through, and I seem to remember there being some pretty cool kills. And you get to see filmmaking behind the scenes in the 70s. So that's quite interesting. It would have been pretty cool. And even things like the things they reference, but they were on it, weren't they? They were saying they didn't like Jaws 2 straight away. But like Patrick said earlier on, I think there's lots of people who do like Jaws 2. I'm a fan of Jaws 2. So, I think we'll call it a day there, guys. But big thank you to MyFlock for sharing this out. Bud Files, thank you for joining us. Have Cheetah Will View. Check out Have Cheetah Will View channel as well for pretty much, it feels like daily interviews with awesome people. So thank you for doing that, Patrick, because it's really good fun to watch. Horror Cat Dad's channel literally posted an incredible video yesterday, so please check that out. Al Lacard's channel, there's some really interesting things happening at the moment on his channel. We've got some classic media, we've got some modern reviews, all happening simultaneously, or if you live in America, simultaneously. And who have I missed? I don't feel I've missed anyone. I think I have missed one person. Big Box, who joined us earlier on. So all people that joined us live, check out their channels. If you want me to go through any more movies like this, I've got quite a lot of these lined up. So yeah, if you like them, watch them and like them. And it's just been awesome catching up with you all. Jaws 3, people nil. 100 for my money, 100% better than the Jaws 3 that we got. Is that a controversial take? Probably not. So guys, take care. Have a great rest of your day. See you soon. And be careful out there.